Hi there, blessings, welcome, sacred sovereign soul. I am Lady Drasmin, one of the co-hosts for He Vibes, She Dives. In this solo episode, I will be diving deeper into the topic of spiritual ego, bypassing, and appropriation. Let's drop in with 3 cleansing breaths. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. First one, inhale and exhale. Second one, inhale and exhale. Third one, inhale and exhale. Welcome, sacred sovereign soul. Thank you for being here today. So, in this season, of He Vibes, She Dives, we are continuing the similar pattern of season 1, which is all available for replay in YouTube in the playlist He Vibes, She Dives season 1, and it is also linked in the description box of this video. Timber and I, we come in each month and speak freely, live on screen, unscripted, about a topic over a ceremonial pot of cacao. The following week, Timber comes in with one of his episodes, and then I come in speaking into the same topic. And in the 4th week of the month, Timber and I go live on Thursdays at 3 p.m. MST to talk about the topic live with all of you, answer your questions, answer your comments. You are welcome to join us in that space. So mark your calendars for our upcoming live next, which is on March 26th at 4:20 p.m. MST. Excuse me, not 3 p.m. MST. That was last season. Whew. Your girl is still wrapping her head around some things. Can you tell? All right. So, thank you everyone who is here now. If you have been following us from the beginning of He Vibes, She Dives season 1, or even before, thank you for continuing to be with us and support us. If you are new, welcome. It is such a blessing to have you all here. So in my solo episodes for the year ahead, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different because I was paying attention to what y'all were liking, commenting, discussing about, and the wordplay kicked off on Instagram, blew up. So in season 2 of He Vibes, She Dives, I'm going to be bringing in a lot more wordplay. I'm going to be breaking down a lot more words. I'm going to be diving deeper into how the words that we use have kept us enslaved into a timeline, a frequency that is misaligned to our soul shine. All right, so without further ado, a little bit of an extended intro today. Wanted to just give, especially our new viewers, welcome everyone, a little quick insight into how we do things over here in He Vibes, She Dives. And alrighty, without further ado, let's dive in. So for my solo episode, I want to branch off just a little bit away from the entire topic. I spoke a lot into each of this in the duo episode. Really juicy, really good. Timber also shares some powerful experiences and perspectives. So link to the playlist is in the description box. I invite you to go check it out. But in this episode, I want to talk about the ego as it shows up in intimacy, and how to dance with that ego in intimacy, which is through the practice of integrity. Okay, so ego, what a word. Okay, so first I'm going to tell you what we're not going to do here, and then I'm going to tell you what we are going to do here. Okay, we're not going to look at ego as arrogance. We're not going to look at ego as self-worth. We're not going to look at it as personality. We're not going to look at it as confidence. Okay? We're not even going to look at it as something that belongs to us. This is the number one cut that I bring into my clients' lives when they come to me, is when I hear them say, oh, my ego, excuse me, pause. And more than my clients. I do this with my friends, with my sisters, with my business collabs. Like, that word my is a word of possession, right? This is my cup. This is my pen. These are my glasses, right? The ego does not belong to you. So perhaps there's a little word rim wisdom right there of the word my. Becoming more aware of where you are applying the word my, because then that keeps you in an attachment bondage loop if you are not in conscious participation with what you are choosing to bind yourself to every time you use the word my. So if we take away the my and we take away all the things of what ego is not, what is the ego? Ego is a collective identity that is created by ego, everyone's good opinion. Okay? We're going to be breaking down the word ego here, okay? So take some notes. So, ego is a collective identity made of ego, everyone's good opinion. And it creates this weave that becomes a pattern that keeps people addicted to dysfunction, codependency, validation, performance. You see where I'm starting to go with this? It's everyone's good opinion. But it can start to become a box, an imprisonment, a containment, a constriction. So when we start to look at the ego as a collective identity, we can see how the ego is a mechanism that could potentially prioritize validation over respect. We can begin to see how ego, in that distorted lens, can turn intimacy and connection into performance and people-pleasing. Ego, we start to see it as the subtle misorientation that happens when that validation energy replaces presence and devotion. So the ego is not loud. It hides in daily being. It hides in that word my. It hides in healing spaces, educational spaces, community spaces, friendship conversations. It hides in sexuality. It hides in things that are labeled sacred. It hides in language that sounds conscious, yet avoids responsibility. Our ability to respond, our ability to take ownership of our power of choice. And when that happens and that subtle shift happens, ego creates that subtle misorientation. Intimacy becomes a stage for validation rather than a practice of respect. And sovereignty quietly leaves the room. So it's this conversation that we're having today is not about judgment or shame. It's about reorienting back to sacred sovereign center. when the identity, and in this case today we are talking about the identity of the ego, replaces integrity, right? That's when entanglement happens. That's when everything gets blurry. Ego, everyone's good opinion. What is it doing? It is edging God, goddess, goodness out. Your God, goddess, goodness, nature is being edged out every time you're meeting someone's good opinion. And those opinions are there because we are expressive forms of creation. We are all allowed to have our ways of being, thinking, expressing. That's what makes the human experience so juicy, is that we are all individuals. Even identical twins are individual sovereign souls. This is why cloning will never work, because you cannot fake soul. So this ego, this everyone's good opinion comes in and creates this identity, and it starts to push out your inner truth. So when you're pushed out of your inner truth, you come out of alignment. When you're out of alignment, you're not in integrity. When you're not in integrity, you are in people pleasing. When you're in people pleasing, you're not making choices from your sovereign truth. Entanglement, confusion. Are you following me? Drop a fire emoji in the comments below if you're resonating with this, if this is clicking for you, if this is going OMG, aha moments, light bulbs going off. Drop that fire heart emoji. I want to see it. Now, when entanglement becomes normalized, dysfunction feels natural. The human body is profound. I could sit here for hours and talk about the biology, the physiology, the neurology of the body, and how we just adapt. It is the natural response of evolution to adapt or die. So we adapt, whether shit's going down or whether life is rainbows and sparkly butterflies. The body will adapt. This is why we master awareness of how we are participating with life, so that we don't step out of balance, because we will naturally contract or expand to align with the evolution of life. So just because you're used to things being a certain way, just because you have a particular kind of response and reaction to a certain experience, person, etc., doesn't necessarily mean it's the healthy one, the sustainable one, the nourishing one, the revitalizing one. It's just what has become normalized. We are seeing a lot of the normalization of entanglement through all of the toxic sludge of humanity that is being cleared out right now as this transmission is coming through. Over the last few months, it's going to continue happening for a few years. We are in the anchoring of the new noun timeline as this transmission is coming through. And that has included the clearing away of everything that is in misalignment. Because when we start clearing away everyone's good opinion, EGO, and returning to our own God, goddess, goodness, nature, we return into our alignment. When we are in alignment, we can practice more of the keys and steps that help us deepen in our embodied sovereignty. the more we are making choices that nourish and sustain mind, heart, body, energy, soul, the more we are aware of our, not just our intention, also our impact, it becomes impossible to walk through life in anything other than integrity. Because we realize that when we step out of our integrity, we step out of our alignment, we are the destructive force in our planet. When we look at life through the lens of life, yes, there is the gray zone of experiencing and being and discovering and unfolding and shedding and becoming and transcending. Yet when we look at life through the lens of life, you got life, you got death, and you got the in-between where you make what you make of it, and you don't know when that's going to end. At the end of the day, there is still death. At the end of your life, there is no escaping death. And when the body is complete with the soul's experience for that stage of their evolution of consciousness, if you have not been in alignment, that doesn't just disappear, that gets tacked on to your next return. And the lessons will continue to stack up. And now we're in this timeline where all that has been stacked up is crumbling and no choice but to look at it or another. So the ego, the collective ego, the collective identity that consciousness has, a lot of humanity is addicted to, is crumbling. And it's wonderful, because when that distortion crumbles and we return to integrity, we return to our personal power. When we return to our personal power, we can make choices from our sacred, sovereign truth. Ego is not thinking that you're better than everyone, right? It's simply that you are now looking for validation outside of your own divine orientation. So ego is a collective identity of external validation that can and eventually does replace internal alignment until you make that executive decision to recognize it and return to center. I'm going to dive a little deeper into the integrity formula that I use here in a moment. Ego is not evil. It is misaligned identity. It provides an alternative perspective into the being human experience. It can serve as a moral compass. It is not the judge and ruler of who you can and choose to be. Before I dive into the integrative formula that I use, yes, it's in the ABCs, because those of you who have been following me for a while know I love wordplay and I love breaking it all down to the ABCD, because y'all, how else did we learn to talk the English alphabet, or really any alphabet, without the alphabet? What did I just say? Hold on. A little bit of dyslexia is kicking in here. We all learn how to speak a language using the alphabet. And so I use the alphabet to help me, and then me translate to you how we can communicate with ourselves and with each other. removing the shame. We're all just big kids who have expanded awareness, right? And some financial responsibilities. Okay, back to the ego. I want to dive deeper into this ego in intimacy, because this is the biggest place that ego is running wild, unchecked, and there is very little conversation about it. Okay? Sex is karmic responsibility. I've mentioned this in some of my podcast episodes, several of my talks. I mentioned this with my clients, if that's relevant to the session. Sex is karmic responsibility, and without integrity creates entanglement. Yes, even with the partners that you are with and have been with for a while, new relationship, current relationships, there is a karmic responsibility there. Why? Sexual energy is creation life force. We literally all came into existence through the act of sex, through the union of sexual energy. Whether that was through love or not love, that's not the conversation we're having here today. We all came into the world through sex. Everything in life is produced through the union of energy, which is that sexual life force. And it's yummy. Sex is amazing. It releases chemicals. It's so healthy and healing for you. I'm not going to talk about sex because then we'll be here for another couple hours. But sex is important in the sense of sharing that sexual energy and life force with another. But it's not enough to just share sexual energy. That's where the intimacy piece comes in. Intimacy. Into me I see, and through me I see you, and I see you seeing me through the lens of me and you in this union. When we are engaging sexually with another being, our energy fields are open, and there is a transfer of information. This information includes information about exes, information about your finances, information about your relatives, information about your kids. There's just information communicating with each other. And so when there is the mixing of this energy, it starts to affect not just both people, but everything that both people are connected to. And the more you engage in sexual connection, the more those things that are connected to become stronger. Now your access, your connection to everything that a person is connected to is just there. It's not malicious, and it's not necessarily something that is thought of. It's just simply energetics. It's not something that's contained. It's what holds the fabric of our being is energy. It cannot be created nor destroyed. It simply exists and transforms from one shape, one form to another, and continues to cycle through during its expanse of being. And in contained, committed relationships, this doesn't become a quote unquote problem, okay? And I use the word problem in quotes because it's not quite the right word. What I want to highlight is when there's sexual intimacy being shared without containment. And I got to deeply experience this when I was dating for a few months, and I was dating men with children. For the first time in my life, I found myself dating men and women who have children. And it brought into my life a deeper understanding of quantum energetics and how that plays out. When you are choosing to sexually connect with someone, when you are choosing to intimately bond with another being, you are now hooked in to whatever frequency they are operating at when it comes to their relationship with money, their relationship with their exes, their relationship with their parents, their relationship with their kids, their relationship with their shadows, their relationship with their gifts, all of it. That's the frequency you're now tapped into. So chemistry might be like, whoo, fireworks in July. But once the chemistry, once the hormones, once the ovulation window doesn't peak anymore, ladies, then you start noticing the misalignment. This is where the entanglement starts to happen. Now you've sexually, energetically melded with another being because it got hot and heavy. There was no containment of energy. And now it's becoming harder and harder and harder to pull away, because every time you sexually connect with someone, you are strengthening those energetic threads and cords. And because sex and sexual energy has been weaponized in the collective consciousness, it is an infestation of confusion that is so deeply saturated in our homes, in our media, in our music, in our culture, in our day-to-day lives, that people are deprived of connection. Intimacy has been made to feel unsafe, when it is the literal glue that keeps us connected with ourselves and with each other. So it's important to recognize that you are going to be in a constant state of evolution. And if you are sexually connecting with someone, it's important to check in with yourself about whether they are operating in the similar or higher frequency than you. Are you in the same page and choosing to grow together? Because if not, wherever they're at, that's where you're going to stay, and vice versa. It goes both ways. This is why it's a responsibility. When we focus on the sexual energy without looking at the intimate, intricate ways that our energy is connected to everything that we entangle ourselves in our life, that's when the entanglement becomes worse. The confusion thickens. You're not really sure why this is being affected and that's happening there, and you think it's all, its own separate thing. My loves, clear your energy field, clear your sexual energy field. This is one of the works I did for 7 years. I did tantric sexual energy healing work with my clients, deep intensive sessions, 3 sessions minimum, going deep and releasing the sexual trauma in the organs, not just trauma of like violence trauma, just like imprints. Anytime a woman receives something in her vaginal canal, there is an imprint of the cock, the sex toy, the baby, whatever has passed through the vaginal canal, there's an imprint. When that imprint is clear, the channel is clear. You are restored. You're not carrying all of this heaviness. For men, it's on the pelvis because they're thrusting, they're hitting that area right there around the cock and the balls. It's holding all of this imprint of memory. And those who are highly sensitive can feel it, and yet may not have the language to express it, and so they just shut down their sexual desires, and then that creates repression of life force energy, which then feeds addiction, which perpetuates dysfunction and disease. And you see the loop that we're in. Sexual energy, it's your root chakra. It's where your energy needs to come through, to come up into your heart, into your throat, into your third eye, into your crown, to be expressed, to be seen, to be illuminated. But it's all blocked because of the ego, everyone's good opinion, cultural programming, societal conditioning, what parents said, what peer pressure said, what your partner's expecting, whatever voices in there have developed from ego, everyone's good opinion, edging your God, goddess goodness out. When we start to look at the ego in our intimate connection with ourselves, and we start to look at that within our friends, our parents, our children, if you are like this in contraction and not able to just share a loving, friendly hug with even a stranger, with especially a stranger, you are in the chokehold of the ego. And that is eventually somewhere you can get to, right? Get comfortable with being in your human being experience. So now let's dive into the ABC integrity formula. So A, B, C. Ready? Okay. A, awareness. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, anybody can say awareness? Awareness, a werewolf, okay? Awareness, know what you're doing. Name what you're doing. Feel what you're doing. That's it. No bypassing, no making excuses, no hemming and hawing and trying to find cutesy little words to, make whatever you're doing fluffy. Know, name, feel. Know what you're doing, name what you're doing, feel what you're doing. Awareness. Then from there, we create the boundaries or the bridges. Boundaries is discernment in action. It is the application of your strength, becoming courage. If there is fear, fear is courage becoming known. Boundaries is providing a container for energy to be expressed safely and freely. Boundaries are clarity, not rigidity. Boundaries are there to build trust in connection with all those aspects of yourself. So once we determine what is my line, these are my boundaries, please do not fuck with them because otherwise I will not be a nice person to be around. Then we make our bridges. From here, this is where I will now go and meet you. This is how we avoid quantum entanglements, by being clear of what is mine versus what is everyone else's. Especially in intimacy. It's so easy for lines to get blurred when the chemicals are hot and heavy. The fact that divorce is so common and normalized in our world today is a symptom of how ego has taken over some of our lives. It is not normal. It is not healthy for children to grow up in broken families. It is a huge disability that is created in the functioning and the development of a child when a family is broken. When a single parent just goes and dates all these men and creates all this confusion in the child's life. When I was dating for a few months, these different men with children, after 3 dates, I'd like to meet your child. If they said no, moving on. We have a responsibility to ourselves to look at where we are creating entanglement in our life and keeping ourselves addicted to cycles of dysfunction and disease. and start creating those healthy boundaries. Boundaries are self-protection. Boundaries protect the peace, not just for ourselves, but for our world. It's because we haven't had these good, clear boundaries within ourselves that we're seeing war play out by these adult babies. I'll leave it there. Okay. And then C, okay? So we had awareness, we have boundaries, and now C. What's C? Coherence, connection. Shadow is integrated. These are my challenges. These are my difficulties. This is where I could use support. I need to use my words and ask, and also allow myself to receive it. Word and action alignment in union. If you can't talk about it, don't do it. If you can't talk about sex, don't be having sex. If you can't talk about your bodily functions without shame and guilt, stop connecting your energy with other people, because now you are transferring that shame and guilt. It's all mixing in the field. If you can't talk about it, don't do it. If you can't explain it simply, you're not clear in your understanding. Ego is that addiction to external validation. One more sign, a signier sign, one more tarot card, one more oracle message, one more workshop, one more teaching, one more plant ceremony, just one more girlfriend's advice, just one more beer with the bros. Just one more, just one more, 5 more minutes, just a little more. Constantly seeking outside of self for confirmation, which, honey, you're never going to get, because nobody is you. So sovereignty begins when that performance ends, when you stop performing and play acting your life and actually start participating in it. Compassion. Have that compassion for yourself. Compassion is that soft acceptance for the fact that you are a human being. You are an eternal soul having a human experience. Bypassing feels expansive, but the body keeps score and eventually will tell the truth. So when we start to respect ourselves, we stop performing. When we stop performing, the ego restores. The ego, your good God, goodness, inherent nature, returns. Well, technically, it's always there. You're just like clear within what is your ego, your eternal God, goddess, goodness orbit within self, versus what is everyone's good opinion. In closing, ego does not belong to you. It is a collective identity. Ego is there to offer a lens into the infinite perspectives that one can have about the being human experience. But ego can become what's the word I'm looking for? Excuse me. Misoriented, right? And then we start to shift out of our center. So the practice is to stay in awareness, know thyself, learn how to communicate. I have a practice in my shop, the ABC check-in, where I share the wheel of communication for how to listen to understand and speak to be heard. And the more you learn how to communicate with yourself, the more you return into your attunement, and then your integrity is restored. Integrity is coherence. Coherence allows you to stay steady. And sovereignty requires steadiness. Sovereign choice requires steadiness. So when your identity returns to alignment, that is when you are in your sacred, sovereign seat of power. That is the seat from where you lead with love. That is the anchor that keeps you humble as you evolve in your essence. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for listening to my little deep dive into the EGO. I look forward to hearing your insight, your comments, your reflections, and I will see you soon for our live, which is scheduled on March 26th at 4:20 p.m. MST. Until we meet again, take care of your beautiful selves. Keep that EGO in check. And listen to your body. Bless.